Scandals in the theater sphere against the backdrop of the war are increasingly erupting in Russia. In the Russian drama theater of Ulan-Ude, a conflict arose between the actors. It was caused by ideological differences in views on the war unleashed by the Kremlin in Ukraine. One group of actors openly support the so-called special military operation, others are strongly opposed. The artistic director ordered those who disagree with the Kremlin's policy not to be allowed into the theater.
3 people will not be allowed into the theater while it's going on. On what grounds? On the basis of my order. Your word must be documented. You have already documented it.
A teacher from Komi was arrested in December 2022. His trial will begin in April. A criminal case against Nikita Tushkanov was opened under the article on justifying terrorism because of a statement about the Crimean breach, and he is also being tried for repeatedly discrediting the army. The mother of the prisoner said that his grandparents were repressed during the Soviet era. The grandfather was expelled from Luhansk to Komi. The grandmother was imprisoned because of a denunciation about a handful of grain. And their son Tushkanov's father was sent to an orphanage.
Тогда было намного жестче, конечно.
It was much tougher then, of course, but there must be some kind of connection. Then there were shooting articles. Well, I would not want 1937 to return. I want to live in a normal country with rights and freedoms.
But rights and freedoms in Russia are becoming less and less every day, and denunciations of neighbors, friends and even relatives are becoming the norm. A court in Izhevsk fined a local lawyer 30,000 rubles under an article about discrediting the Russian army because of anti-war statements during a consultation with women whose relatives in the colony were recruited for the war in Ukraine. They wrote a denunciation on a human rights activist.
During the conversation, the lawyer repeatedly discredited the armed forces of the Russian Federation and the government of the Russian Federation, and also deliberately negatively assessed the use of the Russian armed forces in a special military operation in Ukraine. Olga Dягилева and Elena Sherbakova, wives of war prisoners, from a written complaint against a lawyer to the police.
In the occupied Crimea, an administrative protocol was drawn up against a teacher of a technical school under the article on discrediting the armed forces of the Russian Federation, and he was given 13 days of arrest. Then he was fired from his job. The reason was that he included the Ukrainian song Bayraktar. The denunciation of the teacher Andrei Belozerov was written by his own students.
After the verdict, I still feel in an atmosphere of total lack of freedom. In the wild, of course, it is not expressed as clearly as in a prison, a detention center or a colony, but still there is little pleasant. Andrei Belozerov, teacher, in an interview with Radio Liberty.
In Russia, since the beginning of the invasion of Ukraine, more than 13 new repressive laws have been adopted, and hundreds of Russians have been prosecuted for anti-war statements.
Of course, I don't know what was there in 1930s, it was less or more than now, but the analogies are direct, and we feel like we're back in 1937, when relatives massively write denunciations against each other to the KGB. We have situations where mothers wrote to their children, children to their parents, brother to sister, sister to brother, and so on, and it is, of course, a very unhealthy environment.
According to human rights activists, this only indicates that the Russian authorities are afraid of their citizens, and they try to intimidate those who do not support Kremlin's policy with detentions, arrests and fines. Reported by Roman Smoler, Natalia Husak, UATV News.